This is my audience. Most people in America would say that racism is dead or dying, and they would be sadly mistaken. Racism is still alive and well to this day in America, and I will be telling you statistics, cases, and possible solutions. First, what is racism? Racism is defined by dictionary.com as a belief or doctrine that inherent differences among the various human racial groups determine culture and individual achievements, usually involving the idea that one's own race is superior or inferior to another. Some statistics: in New York, 80% of police stops were black or Latinos, and 85% of those were frisked, compared to the 8% of whites stopped. African Americans comprise only 13% of the U.S. population and 14% of the monthly drug users, but 37% of those people arrested are blacks. And then in 2010, the U.S. Sentencing Commission stated that blacks received an average of 10% longer sentences than whites who committed the same crime. Blacks are 33% more likely than whites to be detained while facing felony trial in New York. And then in 2012, 51% of Americans stated anti-black sentiments, which is a 3% increase since 2008. Also, in 2011, 52% of non-Hispanic whites expressed anti-Hispanic sentiments also. Some of the cases that have happened are the Dred Scott versus Stanford case, which was in 1885 and was a slave pensioning for his freedom, but was denied, and it was also ruled that the Bill of Rights did not apply to African Americans. And then also the Pace and Alabama case, which was an interracial marriage case. And then the two most recent controversial cases were the George Zimmerman case, was the Trayvon Martin case, where neighborhood watch captain George Zimmerman called 911 to file a suspicious persons report, and when he got out of his the operator told him to not get out of his SUV, but he did anyway, and then admitted later to shooting Trayvon Martin and suffered no charges because there was not enough evidence, and because he claimed it was in self-defense. Also, the next one is the Michael Brown and Darren Wilson case. Michael Brown was a teenager that had reportedly entered and robbed a convenience store, and then later on was walking down the street when Officer Darren Wilson pulled up and told him to get off the street. Then when Darren Wilson left, was reportedly said that Michael Brown was a person of suspicion at the robbery. And when Wilson came back and told him to get out of the street again, Michael Brown reportedly attacked Darren Wilson, and Wilson shot him in self-defense. This case caused riots and violence all across the United States, especially in Ferguson, Missouri, where this event took place. It caused local businesses to close up or move because of the violence that was happening. Also in that case was became the saying, hands up, don't shoot, hands up, or was created, and also the t-shirts that were made. This is just one of the many t-shirts that were made for that case. There have been many different versions of that, and there was also one other case in New York where a man had been choked out by a policeman, had been choked out of a policeman, and also the famous t-shirts, "Help, I Can't Breathe," came into play. For a solution, I don't believe there is a solution for racism, because as long as there are people who are around to believe it. Racism is something that you either grow up with and is normal to you, or is taught, or is completely wrong to you. But either way, it cannot be stopped. Whether the race that is being discriminated against is in power, as a president, or some other form of leadership, even then I do not believe it can be fixed. But it can be prevented. Some of the ways to prevent it is stop racial profiling, stop stereotypes, and then also other bullying and also other racial related things like bullying. Again, racism is a problem around the world that I don't think that won't die, and these statistics, cases, can be prevented, but there is no 100% solution to them. And that is it.
7:15.
And this is my audience.